Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Lakambini of Philippine Literature 2023. I am Magdalena Diawe Alice, your host for today. Now we have our top 5 candidates. Introducing our candidate number 2, Rebecca Cervantes. Next candidate number 4, Paulita Echano. Our top 3, candidate number 6, Miss Maria Clara Makatambal. Our top 4 candidate, candidate number 8, Molisa Villar. And our last but not the least, candidate number 12, Miss Victoria Dicena. The writing of the Philippines is comprised of a wide range of works, numerous of which are based on conventional folk tales, social political histories, and individual encounters. Such as publication have subsequently promoted Filipino cultural values, told daily challenges of residents, and have imparted a remarkable lessons. The Philippines stand out for having critical works in various languages that have been impacted by other countries. We can trace the rich legacy of ideas passed down on us from our ancestors by studying our literature. Alright, so much for that. Let's proceed to the main part of this event, which is the question and answer portion. Let's call on our first candidate. Candidate number 2, Ms. Rebecca Cervantes. Hello, Ms. Rebecca Cervantes. Here's your question. What are the different literary periods in Philippine literature, and how does the Philippine literature evolve in different periods? Once again, what are the different literary periods in Philippine literature, and how does the Philippine literature evolve in different periods?
Thank you for that wonderful question. The different literatures period in the Philippines literatures, including the pre-colonial period, the Spanish colonial era, the American colonial era, and the contemporary period. Literatures in the Philippines involve as part of the country's changing history. The first Philippine literature's period was the pre-colonial era. During this time, folk song, epics, narrative, and song narratives were popular. Many of the folk song featured simpler rhythms, while narrative songs were used to tell historian stories. Philippine epics from the pre-colonial era told mythological stories and often reflected on community ethics. During the Spanish colonial era, theaters became popular. During this time, Spanish explorers attempt to teach their language to indigenous people, which meant religious song and poetry found their place in society. The introduction of prose took a similar approach for attempting to influence social behaviors. By the 19th century, Philippines writers were using prose to their own benefits by writing about the negative effects of colonization. During the American colonial period, English was introduced to the mainstream schools throughout the country. This meant some American literatures influence had impact on Philippine literatures, including the introduction of free verse poetry. Short storytelling also became popular, and as romantic movies traditions interested with Philippines cultures, so did the romantic novels. Following military rules in the 1960s, the contemporary period emerged. Poetry, prose, and short stories remain popular, but writing has become more competitive and professional throughout the country. Writers are encouraged to attend workshops and literary awards ceremony are held each year. And I thank you.
Very well said, Miss Candidate number 2, Rebecca Cervantes. Now let's proceed. Let's call on candidate number 4, Paulita Echano. Hello, Miss Paulita Echano. Here's your question. Can you please further explain literature and why it is necessary for a student to study literature? Once again, can you please further explain literature and why it is necessary for students to study literature?
Thank you for that wonderful question. Let's define term first. Literature means any collection of written work, but it tends to refer to writing produced with artistic intent, novels, plays, poems, and essays. In the way literary work differs from, for example, journalism, business, or technical writing. The fact is that people who read a lot of literature are better 21st century communicators. This might seem ironic given the multitude of technology and media that surround us. Reading gives you access to so many different points of view that you can understand different perspectives and make up your own thoughts and feelings about them. People who get involved with literature, reading, writing, or both have an advantage because they are better at getting to the point or expressing themselves. If you've ever been in a situation of arguing a point or explaining something complex, all that practice will help you communicate. Literature is important for students because it helps them to develop their imagination and creativity and improves their language skills. It also helps them to discover the world beyond school. It enhances their knowledge about society, history, science, geography, and politics. Even though they may not understand everything that they read, but as they grow older, they will realize how it was helped them in building a stronger foundation for life. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate number 4. Now let's call on stage candidate number 6, Miss Maria Clara Makatambad. Welcome, Miss Maria Clara Makatambad. Here's your question. What are the parts of literature, and among those, what is the most crucial, and how will it help to encourage students to study literature? Once again, what are the parts of literature, and among those, what is the most crucial, and how will it help to encourage the student to study literature?
Thank you for that wonderful question. As I have remembered, there are 9 parts of literature. First, we have language, plot, mood, setting, theme, point of view, narrator, conflict, and characters. But since one of the literature's main goal is sharing ideas, concepts, and stories with a larger audience, the most important part is language. Why? Because language is defined as a system of communicating ideas and feelings through signs, sounds, gestures, and/or marks. Language is the way we share ideas with one another, whether it's through speech, text, or even performance. Words have meaning, power, and consequences, often positive, sometimes hurtful. Words become literature. They bring the past into the present, make old new again, evoke response, inform, and even more. When used well, literature, language provides connective tissue, helping connect with people. So it is true that most of the people do not love to read books, and it is also true that they are less involved in reading habits. But we need to take action for that. We should encourage students to study literature by simply choosing books that are interesting and entertaining. This will help students develop their reading skills with enjoyment and enthusiasm. We should select literature that focuses on central themes of social relevance or universal values such as friendship, love, and family, so that young adults can easily relate themselves with them, and we can encourage students to write creatively and critically about the book they have read. It will help students to understand what is happening in the world around us and what other people are going through. So that would be all. Thank you.
Indeed, excellent. Alright, now let's call on stage Miss Candidate number 8, Melissa Villar. Here's your question, Miss Melissa. Now, how did the Philippine literature evolve, and what is Philippine literature in Filipino? Once again, how did the Philippine literature evolve, and what is Philippine literature in Filipino?
Thank you for that wonderful question. Philippine literature has evolved from fables and prehistoric tales to profound work on socio-political issues. The transition has been a part of the development of Hispanic writing system with the integration of various languages in the pursuit of excellence. Philippine literature had evolved much before colonization. It is full of legends and tales of colonial legacy, Mexican and Spanish dominance over the land and the people over varying periods of time. Witness the incorporation of English, Spanish, Filipino, and native languages to express ideology and opinion. Literature in the Philippines developed much later than in most other countries. Evidence reveals the use of a script called Baybayin that flourished in 1521. Baybayin was used to write about legends in Luzon during Spaniard domination. The literature of the Philippines before the advent of the Spaniard was predominantly a reflection of the indigenous culture and tradition of the land. The people of Manila and native groups within the Philippines used to write on bamboo and the areca hawk. They used knives for inscribing the ancient Tagalog script. Literature thus preserved was limited to the 17 basic symbols of the language, which was 3 vowels and consonantal symbols that had predetermined inherent sound. The literature handed down was in a raw state and needed to be developed. Tagalog language script that was used initially to preserve and handle literature was limited to a diacritical mark or puntit that further modified pronunciation and writing. The dot, line, or arrowhead was either placed above or below the symbol. The literature thus preserved has played a very important role in the public schooling arena and the rise of the educated class. The colonization by Spain breathed a different kind of life into vernacular and Filipino literature. Spain brought about liberal ideas and a sense of internationalism to the people of Philippines, which was reflected into the popularity of chivalric heroic poems called awit and religious poem called languages. Religious literature, biography of saints, and folktales became the mainstay of vernacular literature during the early period of colonization. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate number 8. Now let's call on our last but not the least candidate, number 12, Miss Victoria Dicena. Here's your question, Miss Victoria Dicena. What is Philippine literature in Spanish and English? Once again, what is Philippine literature in Spanish and English?
Thank you for that question. So the Philippine literature in Spanish can be broadly categorized into 3 stages or phases. The first phase was the time period when religious works as instructed by the colonial masters were spread throughout the land. In the early 17th century, Thomas Pinpin published a book that attempted to translate Spanish into the local language. Second, the literature in the Philippines was developed and preserved by native Filipino intellectuals like Isidro Barfori, Enrique Fernandez Lumba, Cecilio Apostol, Fernando Maguerrero, Jess Palmore, Flavio Zaragoza Cano, and Francisco Zaragoza played a major role of the stories handed down through time. While the emergence of Philippine literature in English can be traced back to the early 1900s after the Philippine-American War, when English became the medium of instruction in educational institutions across the Philippines. The advent of missionary and English educators led to the establishment of English newspaper and magazine, which were short-lived. To the real impetus of English literature was provided by the founding of the magazines Philippine Herald and Manila Tribune. Lastly, another very interesting segment of Philippine literature includes inspiring speeches and songs. This segment has effectively maintained the mystifying characteristic of Philippine epics and folktales. The narratives and descriptions of various magical characters, mythical objects, and supernatural beings are surreal, and distinctly adhering to the ideologies and costumes of the natives, such as Biag di Lamang, or the life of Lamang, Agyo or Olahing, Sandayo or Subano, Aligoyon, the Hudhud, and Labao Donggon are great examples of assimilated styles and language variations. Today, Philippine literature reflects national issues through political prose, essay writings, and novels by Jose Rizal, El Filibusterismo, and No Limitang Here of rich folk tradition. Philippine literature is uniting elements among its people that encompasses a way of life and values cherished by the local and will continue to evolve as is enriched by modern changes. And I thank you.
Thank you, candidate number 12. Indeed, the answers of our ladies truly acquired the impact and development of the Philippines literature throughout the years. Finally, the most awaited part by everyone is the announcing of winners on this Lakambini of Philippine Literature 2023. Now, I have the list of the winning candidate in this pageant. So, not again. Why does it keep on blacking out here in Philippines? I'm having a reaction video here and would like to put some information with regards to Philippine literature and what they have done in that pageant. Now it's blacked out. I wonder who won in that pageant. And seek for information more on night. I'm gonna look for Grandma.